Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over the winter storm over the western United States. We've been talking about this for the past few days, and we're going to continue to talk about it in today's video. I'm thinking that probably within the next few days I'll have my winter forecast my winter storm forecast for this event, where we'll have the snowfall forecast as well. I don't want to put one out today just because it's a little bit too early, and of course a lot can still change, but I'm thinking that again over the next few days I'll start to put out that forecast. With this event is also the threat of some thunderstorms, especially in the central and southern United States. So areas like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska could be dealing with a bit of severe weather. We'll talk about that towards the end of today's video. Today we have a weather photo that was sent in by Isaac Childers. By the way, if you want to send in your weather photos, send it to the email address on the bottom of your screen right down there. It's also in the description of the video. So if you want to send them in, again, just send it down there, and I'll put it in the beginning of whatever video. So if you send it in, let's say today, then by tomorrow's video, I'll have that on the weather photo of the day. So this is going to probably become more prevalent as we get into the winter time, because I'm assuming a lot more people will send them in for things like snow and ice storms that we get. So if you have any of those, if you have any cool cloud pictures, especially this time of year, any fall foliage that you've seen, then just send that in. It's always fun to look at them. This was a picture of some cirrus clouds, which were over, I believe he lives in eastern Tennessee, so this is taken last Monday in eastern Tennessee, or around that area, and they did get some fairly interesting clouds. Usually this does happen when you have a front moving through, so when you have a front approaching, not over the area just yet, but approaching from the west, usually you do get some of these clouds to start up. The clouds themselves do not contain rain or any precipitation, but as you get a little bit, well, it is kind of a warning sign for some rain. Usually a few hours later you will have a little bit of precipitation. So while these clouds themselves may not really be all that significant, if you do see them, you can probably assume that within 12 to 24 hours, you'll have some amount of rain moving through. So an interesting thing to look at. Again, if you have any weather photos that you want to send in, I'm more than happy to feature them in the videos. Send it to that email address in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, or it's also in the email address or in the description down below. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we have one winter weather advisory in eastern Washington. So we're already starting up with those weather advisories. We have a few flood watches into Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and also into Florida. We have some air quality alerts in effect for eastern Texas, but again, really a very quiet day when it comes to the weather. The past 2 weeks have been extremely quiet, so that's why we have to look a little bit further out to really see anything notable. It looks like this pattern will start to heat up a little bit, so we'll have a few more storms moving in and out, and that's going to start off with the first wave, which is going to move in from the northwest and quickly move to the Rockies. That'll dissipate quickly, but that second wave, which will also start up over here and move into the Rockies, will become the stronger one that brings in all that rain and snow. So yesterday we had a high temperature of 98 degrees in Rio Grande Village, Texas. The high temperature in Cotulla, Texas as well was 98 degrees. The low temperature was in Crater Lake, Oregon, where they got down to 22 degrees, and the highest rainfall report was in Brewton, Alabama, where they got 7.8 inches of rain, and that's in southern Alabama. I've gotten a lot of comments from generally this area right here, especially so northern Alabama, northern Georgia, and upstate South Carolina were the main areas where people have been talking about how much rainfall and flooding there's been. So definitely there are a bunch of rain issues and flooding issues within this area, and you can tell that just by looking at some of the rainfall reports, but also just from the stories I've been hearing from down there, there is definitely some flooding going on in some spots. So here's a look at the upcoming and expected radar from the European model. So this is Sunday night, and you can see that we do have a little bit of a front setting up in the northwest and also into western Canada. Now, this system will slide down into the Rockies, and this will provide one of the first big blasts of snow of the season for the Rockies. So there are also a few more things that I want to touch on. You want to pay attention if you live in the Central Plains for a little bit of severe weather. So watch out and keep your eyes on that part of the screen because you will start to see some heavier rainfall move in there, and that could be a sign of some potential severe weather. So you want to pay attention to that. You also, of course, want to keep your eye on the snow, which is happening in the Rockies. And that's not just going to be constrained to, again, the super high elevations, the mountains, but also for areas like eastern Wyoming, eastern and central Montana, western Utah, northern Nevada, where, yes, you do have mountains, but you also have a lot of flat land. You'll also be getting in on some of the snowfall. It's not just going to be those super high peaks that we'll be seeing the snow. It will also be some of those flatter areas that are a little bit lower down in elevation. So here it'd be by Monday evening, and you can see that the snow now starting to break out a little bit. This is still going to be one of those transitional snowstorms for the northern and central Rockies. It's not going to be super cold. You're not dealing with anything that's ultra cold, so you're not going to really be able to get that nice powdery snow. It'll be a little bit more of a wet snowfall, a little bit harder to shovel away, so that might be a little bit more of a hassle. So that's going to be something you want to pay attention to. Usually in the Rockies, you have more of a fluffy snow, a powdery snowfall, but you're not going to really get that with this event just because it will be a little bit on the warmer side of things. If we move this on this is Monday night into Tuesday morning, and you can see that we have this system still in for the Rockies, but now you can see that that snow is starting to expand a little bit. So it looks like overnight from Monday to Tuesday is when you're going to get the bulk of the snow, and one of the reasons for that is because you have colder temperatures, of course. It's going to be much harder to get your temperatures below 32 in a place like eastern Wyoming, where you don't have the super high elevation. Most of the super high elevation in the mountaintops are in western and northern Wyoming, but even again in those flatter spots, it is much easier during the evening hours to get below 32 than it is during the morning and the daytime hours. So this is going to be a storm that's going to be highly dependent on the timing. It looks like the bulk of the heavy precipitation will come overnight when it is a bit colder, which means that you could have more of that precipitation in the form of snow rather than rainfall. Again, this would be by late Monday and then into Tuesday morning, and you can see that we still have some of that heavy and moderate snow in for Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Utah, and some surrounding spots. I know I have a couple viewers from the interior west. If you're looking at some of the lower lying areas, so for example, Salt Lake City, Utah, it will be a kind of a mixed precipitation event. Not all snowfall. It's kind of hard to tell on this map because it's zoomed out, but you can kind of see some of that green popping up in Salt Lake City. Again, it might be a little bit hard to see, but the areas around the city itself, the metro, will probably be a little bit warmer by a few degrees, and that should allow more rain rather than snow. But overnight, especially Monday night into Tuesday morning, we could definitely see a bit of a wintry mix. Maybe probably not too much ice, but definitely a wintry mix, and also some light snow mixing in. Boise, Idaho, you're going to stay pretty much all rain for this event, although I can't rule out a few flurries. Areas like Elko, Nevada, in northeastern Nevada, you guys will probably be a little bit on the colder side, so you might actually get a little bit more in terms of snowfall. It will still be a challenge. You'll have to transition from rain to snow from Monday into Tuesday morning, but it looks like you'll at least get some lighter snow. And then when we're looking at some areas like Missoula and Montana, you guys will probably get quite a good amount of rain, and then transitioning into snowfall as we get into Tuesday morning. So again, a lot of these areas are going to see at least some amount of snowfall. Denver, I think, is the one metro in the Rockies that probably will not see snow out of this event. Not completely ruling it out, but I think it's on the lower end of things in terms of the chances of that happening. I would give it probably a 20% chance that Denver itself gets some snowfall, but you get into maybe some of the western and northern suburbs, and maybe you could get a little bit of snow activity up there. As we move this on to Tuesday early afternoon, it will start to warm up a little bit. So now you're starting to see that some of the lower elevations are transitioning back into rain, but it is cold enough in some of these areas. The precipitation is coming down heavy enough that it can stay all snow. Again, I said this story yesterday, but and I'm not going to repeat the story, but basically you can see some of the in some of these events you can have really heavy rainfall transition that into snowfall. So, for example, if you are in a winter storm where you're transitioning from rain to snow, it can start out at 40 degrees and then an hour later be 32 or 31 degrees, just in the matter, again, of an hour or 2 hours, because of how heavy the rain is coming down. When that precipitation is coming down from the clouds, it's not only bringing in the precipitation, the rainfall, the snowfall, whatever it may be, it's also bringing down some of the cooler temperatures that happen to be a few thousand feet up. So when you get some of that heavy rainfall, that can cause some of that colder air to sink down. So the heavier the precipitation, the more the storm is deepening, and also the more the colder temperatures are getting to the surface. So if you see any pockets of heavy rainfall, know that you could quickly be transitioning into some heavy snowfall in these type of borderline events where you're right on the verge of 32 degrees. So again, this is an interesting phenomenon that I think it really does make a big difference in these snow events, especially for areas that are right on the border of rain and snow. It can make a really big difference, and not a lot of people really pay attention to that. They just look at the surface, they just look at the snowfall totals, but we got to know that there is the outside possibility that something with that heavy rainfall does happen. So one thing that I just want to kind of point out quickly, as we get into Tuesday evening, still snowing for much of western and central Wyoming. The Rockies of Colorado and Utah still dealing with some of that snow, but you get into the lower lying spots and you're looking at mainly just a rain event there. The system will start to kind of get a move on. Notice that in the central and southern plains, I'm not forgetting about you guys are going to be dealing with some rain and also some thunderstorm activity. So the National or the Storm Prediction Center actually put out, I believe, a 15 to 30% chance, which is equivalent to a slight or enhanced risk within the next, I believe, 4 to 6 days of you guys seeing severe weather. We're going to show you that map in just a few moments, but there is definitely the threat of some severe storms, even though we're already into mid-October by this point. So this is October 13th, Wednesday morning. The storm, it will start to kind of look like it's intensifying on the satellite and the radar, but really it's starting to pull away by this point, and it's going to pull away to the north and then eventually weaken after that, after it moves into the northern plains. So here's the snowfall forecast from the European model. Now, don't look at the exact amounts. That's not really the purpose of this map. We really want to look at where that heavy snow is located. So if we're looking at the area that's really in the heavy snowfall, it's going to be right here on the European model. And if we're looking at the easternmost extent, which is what I really want to look at, it's right along there. So let's look at a few other models. Here is what the GFS is doing. You can see how the GFS has that easternmost extent all the way into South Dakota, Nebraska, and also into Colorado. So we are seeing a little bit of a change there compared to what the European model was showing. And if we look at a couple other models like the Canadian model, you can see it does have definitely a different outlook on things, especially up into Montana. You have a bit of a northern flank of that system, but it only extends as far east as the Rockies. Some of these areas in central and eastern Montana, by the way, are not in the mountains. It's actually a lot more similar to the terrain of North Dakota or South Dakota than it is to western Montana. So there's a real big elevation difference between western and eastern Montana, and this is in the area that is not necessarily super high in elevation. So it goes to show you that if you can get heavy enough rainfall, that can transition some of that over to snowfall. And you see that more so in the Canadian model. I'm going to trust the European and the GFS a little bit more as of right now, because the Canadian does have a reputation of being that outlier model. Although we still want to at least look at it, it does give us another opinion, which definitely doesn't hurt at all to look at. But again, don't take the Canadian model as gospel. Don't take any of these as gospel, because again, we still don't know fully what's going to happen. We're still about 5 to 7 days out from this event being over. Here's a look at the severe weather that I was talking about. This is the Storm Prediction Center's forecast, and this is for Thursday, or not Thursday. This is actually for Sunday into Monday. So Sunday the 10th, you can see that eastern Oklahoma and northeastern Texas, we've got a 15% chance, which is equivalent to a slight risk of severe weather in eastern Oklahoma, again, and northeastern Texas. And then we have that 30% in the orange chance region, and that's equivalent to an enhanced risk, and that is definitely something that you don't see too often on the day 4 outlook. Usually they only update the day 1 through 3 outlook, but when they post something on day 4, most times, even if it's just in that 15% risk, you will get upgraded to at least a slight or an enhanced risk, and in many cases it even gets up to moderate risk. So we at least want to pay attention to that. Keep an eye out for that. Nothing that you want to overly worry about right now, but at least just keep an eye on that. It looks like it's going to be from Oklahoma City down to Dallas and areas east of there where we'll be dealing with it with the severe weather. So basically from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, down to Dallas, and then just west of Shreveport, where we'll be dealing with most of that severe weather for Sunday. And then if we look at for Tuesday, which is the 12th, you can see that it shifts a little bit further to the west. So this time it's from Dallas up to Tulsa, and then all the way to the panhandle of Texas, where you have that severe weather risk, and it's only a 15% chance this time, which is equivalent to a slight risk. But the one thing that is different is that, look at this, we're on the day 6 outlook. By the way, the Storm Prediction Center only goes out to the day 8 outlook, so they very rarely have anything past 4 days. Sometimes they'll have something on the 5-day outlook, and it's very rare that they'll put something out on the day 6 outlook. So you at least want to pay attention to it, and it's something that you want to keep your eye out on. I'm definitely going to be tracking this at least in moderation, so I do want to keep an eye out for this, because it could definitely become something that is a little bit bigger than what's currently being shown. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you want your weather photo of the day to be featured, then send in a picture of any weather-related event, whether in the wintertime that would be snow or ice, or this time of year, maybe the fall foliage around your area, or even if you just see a cool cloud in the sky and you want to send that in, send it over to the email address in the description down below, and you could be featured in the beginning of that video. So that is going to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys for tomorrow's video. Goodbye.